Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Genesis Block. Today we're going to do another protocol analysis. So we've got Sid here who's going to be presenting about Zora, which is an NFT marketplace and it's a protocol for creating NFT marketplaces and NFT assets. So without further ado, before I butcher this too much, I'm going to hand it over to Sid, who's going to actually explain what Zora does. So Sid, it's your stage.
Yep. Thanks. So, guys, let's talk about Zora today. Um, just before I begin, let me just say that whenever you think you have a question or any doubt, just cut me off. I'll anyway take routine pauses between every chunk of that I'm explaining. But feel free to just jump in with any questions or any clarification that you think is helpful for the audience. Right. So with that, let's begin. So Zora, as we Siddharth mentioned, it's a protocol. It's not a marketplace in itself. It's a protocol on which you can build various NFT applications, NFT applications that use NFTs. One of them being a marketplace, right? Um, so it's built on the Ethereum blockchain, right? It was the protocol itself was founded around 2020, so it's fairly new, right? And I think about it just it's like any other protocol, right? It's a collection of smart contracts. That's all it is. So even if the front end, the UI really goes down, the protocol itself, the set of smart contracts that have executed various contracts in the past. So says I have sent someone an NFT, I've purchased it from another person. All the history of those transactions and the ownership that was an outcome of those transactions, those remain, right? That's essentially what a protocol is, right? Even if Uniswap's front end goes down, right, the liquidity pools they still exist. They don't disappear as well. Now that we have that clarity, the way I like to think about and the way even the founders have described Zora, because the Zora versus OpenSea comparison is probably the first thing everyone thinks about because how prominent the name OpenSea is in the NFT space. Um, the way the founders think about it is if OpenSea is like Amazon, which aggregates all the various NFT assets onto one place, then Zora is Shopify, right? It allows people to create their own curated NFT experiences, right? And they allow people to create various, let's say, websites, to keep a very known term, right? Websites where people can interact with NFTs, with specific NFTs, and also in specific ways, right? Some can only allow, say, NFTs with a certain theme. So let's take, say, sci-fi, right? And some other NFT application might only allow auctions, while some might allow direct, buy now. So those are examples of what you can build on Zora. So the way, so that's the protocol, and then there is another thing I'll just mention here at this moment is which is if the Zora protocol is the base layer, then and on top is the various applications that I was describing. Then in between is the Zora SDK, right, which is a developer tool developed in parallel for builders to enable builders to build these various applications easily. But I'll get into the SDK in a bit, right? So just let's touch upon the team really quick because that's quite a critical part of any analysis. So we have 6 folks: D. Gones, Jacob Horn, Slava Kim, Dai Havi, Ethan Dyer, and Tyson Battistella. Sorry about the names, but so the 6 of them are all Coinbase alumni, and I believe it was there where they've met. There isn't honestly much information about the team. Jacob Horn seems to be, the face of Zora today, at least. He seems to be the most, present in online media. So just a bit about him. He spent 3 years. He actually joined Coinbase as an intern, and quickly became a product manager within 3 years. And that's quite some growth. So to me, at least, it shows at least some aptitude, right? And after that, he ventured on his own because he got um, fascinated by the whole NFTs rise, right? So at first he tried to make an experiment, really. Let's say he tried to perform an experiment with NFTs and how they interact with real life physical assets. We'll put the details in the article so you can get some more clarity on what that was. And then after that, he jumped into Zora because what the founders saw was that all the marketplaces, and when I say all, I mean OpenSea specifically, because OpenSea dominates like 90+% of all NFT transaction volume, right? Or at least the vast majority. And what happens is platforms like OpenSea is they still mimic Web 2 dynamics, right? They have lock-ins, right? They own they and I'll get into how those lock-ins are there, but essentially they don't facilitate NFT transactions they don't facilitate the democratization of NFTs, let's say. And I know that's a lot of abstract and loaded statements, but we'll get into why Zora exists in just a few minutes. But the reason why he wanted to create Zora is what I just mentioned, right? And also, just one last tidbit on him. He has some quite insightful essays actually online on his blog, which we'll also link.
Yeah, including hyperstructures, right? Like
Right.
hyperstructures is a
Yeah. Right.
great,
Yeah.
it's like a great foundational piece for understanding how blockchains exist and how they interact
Right.
with each other.
Right.
So I think that hyperstructures is a really good essay. But just before you continue, is that like, sorry, did you want to talk about the team a little more or?
No,
Um,
I mean, honestly, on the team, that's all I have because there's not much available
yeah,
online. But just to touch upon hyperstructures, so Zora's meant to be in hyperstructure. Right? Hyperstructures are
exactly.
meant to be everlasting in principle, right? They're meant to exist as long as the blockchain exists. OpenSea is not one of those. OpenSea is not a hyperstructure. It still leverages off-chain services. It still has in its own private databases is where all the majority of NFT assets sit and lie. He Jacob and the team didn't think that is in alignment with Web3 values, and that's why Zora is came to be.
So just before we go on deeper about Zora, I just wanted to encapsulate what exactly it is
Yeah.
in a paragraph or two, right? So essentially, Zora can be thought of as a protocol built on Ethereum that allows developers easy access to smart contract templates and essentially smart contracts that allow for the creation of NFT marketplaces and the utilization of NFT assets in their best possible format, whatever it might be, right? There might be a multiple different ways in which NFTs can be used. It's essentially can be thought of as an NFT accelerator. So if you got any projects that are to do with NFTs, anything that you want to create, that you might have to build from scratch, Zora actually makes that process a lot easier by providing you easy access to smart contracts and to the infrastructure essentially that is needed before any of these NFT projects like marketplaces can be built. Is that correct?
So yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, because uh, you know the Zora protocol being on chain and being completely permissionless does allow developers to develop NFT services, let's say, easier. That is true. And I say no also because what makes it easier is not only the Zora protocol. Zora protocol is just it just exists, and the existence is helpful, yes. But then the Zora SDK is the actual tool that
Yeah.
developers use to interact with the protocol, which actually, in practice makes it easier. So while your description was not inaccurate, I think that nuance is important.
Okay, so let's I mean maybe the natural place to go next would be talking a little bit deeper about the Zora SDK and what it does.
Yeah, and one thing I will one, and in fact, the Zora protocol is, I mean, in very rudimentary terms, is just a media registry, right? It has the it just tells you who owns a particular NFT and the link, the link to the NFT, the asset, the link which directs to the asset of the NFT. That's all it does. The Zora
So
protocol.
it's just a ledger. It's literally like an
It's
NFT
a
ledger.
ledger. Exactly. But what they also have introduced is uh, almost a new standard for NFTs, um, which I think is which I'm going to get into when I talk about the actual features of Zora protocol. So I think that bit is going to be, will help you gain this clarity that you're looking for. But before we get to there, I just want to touch upon, just some more hygiene stuff, like, what their funding has been like and so on. So with that out of the way, I think then we can have a more, clear discussion. So just to touch upon on funding, so governance and funding, I'll touch upon both. So the Zora uh, ecosystem has the Zora DAO and the Zora Labs. Zora DAO is just an on-chain entity, right, which holds the governance rights for the protocol, as it is for most projects. Today, the DAO is just a multi-sig wallet held by Zora Labs in its entirety, so it's completely centralized. Um, Zora Labs, on the other hand, is a for-profit private entity that is building out the protocol. And therefore they have, and because they own the wallet, they own the governance rights, so hence it being centralized. And Zora Labs specifically, they are the ones who are building these open source developer tools, like the aforementioned Zora SDK, right? And to what I understand, and from my research, they actually earn revenue using like the Red Hat model. I don't know if you're aware of it, but so they charge for customer service, and they charge for and when a company is using their SDK and they want help, then they reach out to Zora Labs, and Zora Labs charges for that service to help them out for integration, customer support, so on and so forth, right? Um, and of course, the goal
So
is to
the
progressively.
SDK itself is open source.
Yes,
Okay. Just want to
yes,
clarify that. Sorry.
yeah, it is open source. Um, and yeah, so the idea is obviously to progressively decentralized. How that is going to happen, there's no clear roadmap that they provided. Of token offering could be one way, but like I mentioned, there's no real clarity on that. Um, and as a follow-on, to talk about the funding, they've raised quite a bit of money. Since 2020, they've raised around $60 million. Their first backers were Kindred Ventures. They have backed Masari, Magic Eden, Friends of Benefits, Goldfinch. So quite significant names in the space. This was back in 2020, and then 2022 was the latest round, where they raised $50 million out of the 60 million. And this was led by Horn Ventures. Kitty Horn is an ex A16Z general partner. She's on the board of Coinbase and OpenSea. So she comes with a lot of prestige of her own. And that also gives Zora and the Zora team quite some validation, if you ask me. And this round was raised at $600 million valuation, which is quite something.
What month was it in?
It was in the first half of 2022. I
I
don't
think it
have
was
the
in like I from memory. I think it was in like May or something.
Yeah. So the media articles are dated May. So you could assume maybe a month or two before that.
Yeah, you can assume like around that time, right? I mean, I would. Yeah, I mean, I think that like if they did it now, even honestly, I think that Zora is pretty great.
Mhm.
Just from like what I know about it, but um, yeah, I think that the round would be at a much lower valuation at this point in time,
Yeah.
compared to like May or April. There's
Yeah.
I think a pre-Terra and a post-Terra in crypto, and I think that was in the just pre-Terra era. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we like, I mean, I don't really have anything much to say on that, because it's a fair analysis. I
yeah,
think there's been a very clear, a clear, very stark contrast in the market sentiment since then.
yeah,
So
exactly.
who knows what the value would have been, if it was raised a few
Yes,
months later.
exactly. Sorry,
Um,
go on.
yeah, but anyway, also Coinbase participated in that round, so just another good name to have, right? So now let's actually jump into the Zora protocol itself. So like I was mentioning it, so if um you are aware, and if the audience is aware of, I forget who wrote the article, but it was the fat protocol thesis. something along those lines, which basically posits that right now in Web 2, the protocol layer captures no value actually, essentially, like HTTP and the various protocols Web 2 is built on. That capture no value, and all the applications that built on top of it, Amazon, Google, etc., capture all the value, right? And Web 3 is supposedly going to flip that. How to the extent it has, we don't know. I mean, right now the various protocols such as Ethereum, they are capturing the value, but who knows how it's going to be in the future. NFTs specifically, that is not happening. OpenSea is by far the biggest, the largest success story, and that is an application layer example, right? Now, why is this happening in NFT specifically? What the founders are proposing is that there are multiple lock-ins created in their business model, because the business model of OpenSea essentially is transaction volume, and therefore getting a cut of the transaction, and so they are invested in making the people making NFT creators and NFT assets to stay on the OpenSea ecosystem. And OpenSea, as we know, is not decentralized. It is not permissionless, and so on and so forth, right? It uses it. They actually use centralized servers to host.
It's Web 2.5.
Correct, right? So, and examples of how they enforce this lock-in, well, you have platform escrow listings, right? So, for example, when you list an NFT asset of yours, it's no longer in your wallet; it's on the OpenSea platform. And even something that I recently found out is, like, if you create an NFT on OpenSea, and then that OpenSea somehow gets transferred to another marketplace, you don't get the royalties if you've encoded royalties initially in OpenSea, right? Because the royalty distribution is actually a platform level operation. It's not token level.
It's not smart contract level.
Correct.
Hold on. So are you saying, so what was the first thing you said again about OpenSea? Because that's actually interesting. Hold on.
Platform as escrow listings. So when you list an asset for sale, NFT for sale, the NFT goes out of your wallet and onto the platform. It's listed.
Wait a second. So let's say that. So can I list on OpenSea and another NFT marketplace, or can I only list on OpenSea?
You can only list on OpenSea. You can
That's absurd.
You can take it off OpenSea.
Yeah, but that's also absurd, because like the thing is that the benefit of NFTs is that I should be able to I mean, like, I obviously it's like a lot more difficult practice, but like I should be able to list on OpenSea and another platform, and like whichever sells first. Like that's the benefit and the beauty of digital assets. But okay, sorry, so I didn't know that. Actually, that's a very interesting point, and that's pretty bad.
Yeah, and also another downside of this is, if your NFT has any utility attached through any project, now you have yield bearing NFT assets as well. You don't actually get that advantage.
You don't get the yield.
Yeah, because it's not in your wallet, right?
So you essentially, if you want to, okay, let's say that like I want to list an NFT on OpenSea, and let's just assume for the sake of assumption that it's a yield bearing NFT, but I still want to collect that yield while I'm listing it, because I'm still like, I still own the asset. Like even if I've listed it up for sale, I still own the. Are you saying that like that OpenSea just holds the NFT in some random wallet or whatever, and I can't get access to that yield? So it's just in like some sort of box that's like, you can think of it as some sort of box that's like completely disconnected from the outer world, in which the status of that NFT is kind of in limbo. Like the only thing I can do is pull that NFT back to my wallet to get true ownership of it back. But like in the meantime, before it's sold, it's actually in some sort of limbo between being my NFT and OpenSea's NFT.
Yeah.
That's awful.
That's what a centralized exchange is, right?
This is like the worst thing. I mean, okay, that's terrible.
Like, so to talk about the specific of how the yield bearing asset would look like in practice, that I haven't actually done, and I haven't read an actual case, but that's the logical assumption, right? Because if the asset's no longer in your wallet, then how can another decentralized application which is giving a yield based on the smart contract?
Yeah, of course, that makes sense.
that if the smart contract will look at is the asset in your wallet. That's what it will do.
Does the yield go to that smart contract that's holding that wallet in the interim period between being sold and
See, I couldn't comment on that because that, like I
Okay, fair
mentioned,
enough.
because of
Yeah,
this,
but I
I
mean, I
don't
would
know.
assume it does, which because like the asset itself is held by that contract. That
Mhm.
contract is a wallet. That means OpenSea is just getting my yield.
I mean, that's the logical assumption that I
Yeah,
would make.
wow, I hate this, but continue.
Yeah. So anyway, the broader point is there are these issues, right, with the current state of NFT marketplaces and just how people interact with NFTs at the very base layer, right? Um, which Zora intends to solve, right? They want to actually manifest the original goal, right, which was to democratize clear monetization and the dependency on centralized platforms, right? That was the initial goal of Web3, and it didn't happen, at least so far. So now let's talk about how Zora's intending to solve these problems and achieve this goal, right? So first, of course, I'm just going to touch upon it briefly. It's trustless and permissionless. It's a protocol, therefore, it's you cannot be deplatformed. It's just smart contracts, and the code is vetted, right? So that's a pretty important point, even though it's pretty obvious now to us. Um, Next, so Z NFTs or Zora NFTs. This is like the new NFT standard almost that I was alluding to earlier. Essentially, what it is, it's an ERC 721, but they've built a bit on top of it, right? So they've added their own optimizations, and they specifically utilize EIP 2981, which is an improvement proposal, which essentially, from what I understand, is it gives ERC 721 a royalty standard. So ERC 721 natively does not have any token royalty logic built in. It doesn't have that functionality. Therefore, OpenSea and all have to do it at the platform level. But EIP 2981, it provides ERC 721 tokens this inbuilt royalty distribution mechanism, right? So using this EIP and a little bit more, they've created this new concept of a ZNFT, right? So one, of course, because it's a ZNFT, your royalties are now executed at a token level. So it doesn't matter if you're on Zora.co, which is Zora's marketplace, which is built on Zora protocol. So don't confuse Zora protocol with Zora.co. Zora.co is just the marketplace built on Zora protocol.
Yeah, if you
So
can
if it's
consider, like, I can just give an analogy to that. So if you think about Ocean Protocol is actually can be thought of as similar. It's just a protocol that allows you to create data assets for your NFTs. The assets for your data, for your data. But actually, Ocean Marketplace is something that Ocean itself has created that utilizes those
yeah.
assets that are created on top of the protocol. So you can, I guess, think of Zora in a similar manner, in which Zora allows you to create NFTs that have separate special functions with, like, the EIP that Sid mentioned. But Zora.co is a marketplace that utilizes those assets that are created on top of Zora protocol. Sorry, I just wanted to like clarify that, but continue.
Correct. No, it's a good point to make, because initially when I got confused between what exactly they're talking about when they mention Zora.co and Zora protocol. But Zora, so just a little bit more on that. Zora.co is one example of a marketplace built on Zora protocol. There could be n number of marketplaces, and Zora.co is just one of them. Um, so like I was mentioning, if your asset is built on Zora.co, is minted on Zora.co, or it is built on another marketplace which utilizes Zora protocol, um, if your transaction happens in any one of those marketplaces, you will still get the royalty. And another important point is open assets, a marketplace like OpenSea, they actually withhold your royalty for like 2 to 4 weeks. Um, this does not happen if it's enforced at token level. That
Yeah,
happens
I mean,
instantly.
everything you're saying is just pissing me off. So,
Yes.
like,
So so I mean, this alone is quite a strong use case for Zora. But there's actually more, right? Um, they've so going further down now, another very interesting concept that they've introduced is how they actually think of NFT liquidity. So one thing that you mentioned earlier was, if I list on OpenSea, essentially then I don't get the benefit of other marketplaces and the quote unquote buyers, sellers, or I could say liquidity in the other marketplaces,
Yeah.
right? So so essentially the order book is restricted, constrained to that one particular marketplace. Um, with ZNFTs, the marketplace is actually inbuilt into the token, so that again the marketplace, or let's say the list of bids, because it's just one asset, right? It's not fungible, so there's only one instance of it. Therefore, the marketplace is essentially just the list of bids. The list of bids is at the token level again. So what that means is, say you list an NFT, right, on the Zora protocol, and I and six other people have bid on that. Now you accept my bid. You still have five other bids. So as when I get the ownership of the NFT, since you accept my bid, my NFT still has those five bids.
You
It's
can,
it's
yeah.
still it's still it's the bid is still live. The bid does not get taken off because the marketplace does not own the bid. The bid is, so essentially you own, NFT owner owns the NFT, and it owns the NFT's order book, right? Which is, when you think about it, a completely novel concept.
How do you cancel the existing orders? Because it's kind of annoying to
No, but the
continuously.
the bid the bidder has to do that.
Yeah, yeah, but as a oh, the bidder has, but as the owner, can I cancel or can I just decline
You,
orders?
yeah, of course, you can reject orders.
And so I just reject orders. And let's say that like I've bought the NFT. So
Hmm.
let's say that, okay, let's say that you were the owner of an NFT and you listed it on like six different marketplaces and you got six different orders in, okay, and you accepted my order. Now I'm the new owner of the NFT and there are five outstanding orders. Can
Hmm.
I simultaneously unlist, delist my NFT from
Yeah,
those five marketplaces?
yeah. So I'm assuming the marketplaces are leveraging the Zora protocol. If that is so, when you delist your NFT, it will be delisted off the platform of the protocol.
Okay, so it's delisted off of any marketplace that utilizes Zora protocol.
Correct. And then as a result, um, to my mind, it should not be visible on any on
That's
any
so much
on
more
any
intuitive.
yeah. So it's, in a way, it's also concentrating all the potential buyers. But the second point which I mentioned, to me at least, um, is more fascinating, which is the whole concept of having the marketplace inbuilt into the token itself.
Yeah,
So
that's amazing.
the owner owns the the list, the
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I
I
mentioned, the owner
exactly get
owns
what you mean.
the order book.
So you know what, like an actual like benefit of this is, and like the first thing that went to my mind was tickets, like actually like utility,
Mhm.
like actual like real life utility compared to
Mhm.
that, right? If you think
Yeah.
about tickets, right? Let's say I have have a ticket for a game between Chelsea and like Manchester United,
Mhm.
and I can't go, and I'm selling that ticket, right? In today's world, I would only be able to list that ticket on StubHub, right? Or via Google or like some random website
Mhm.
where I can sell tickets. Now, what you can do if you tokenize that is actually simultaneously list it on multiple places, increase the audience of buyers that is actually going to buy it, and they get the benefit that like the price that I've listed it at is consistent across marketplaces. I get the benefit that the people who are looking at my NFT, at my ticket, and want to buy it, the audience number increases. So that's much more beneficial because it's much more likely that I will get, the tickets sold than if I listed on one marketplace or or something like that. And what also is beneficial for the buyers is that their price discovery gets a lot more easy because everyone gets one price, which is a lot more fair in my opinion. I think
It's
that's
market
fantastic.
efficiency. Yeah, it's they're making the market just way more efficient, which is
Exactly.
awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, so there's I think those were like two very very critical components and pros of the SOAR protocol. But they also one another interesting optimization they made is at the metadata level. So from my research, I found out that NFT metadata is actually it's still very nascent and as a concept, and there's no gold standard as such. Um, so what Z NFTs do is they decouple the token URI and the metadata URI. So what that essentially means is, in the metadata of an NFT, you have a URL that points to the actual asset, right? Like the JPEG or whatever, it's the video file, where that file is stored, right? Could be
Yeah.
an AWS server, it could be IPFS, whatever
Mhm.
whatever it may be. And at the same time, the metadata also has um, you know uh, um, actual metadata, like text saying that uh, the name, the title of the
Yeah.
NFT,
Yeah.
description, all that stuff. So, and also one critical point is, in the current standard, the token URL, which basically points to the asset, that's not updatable. So once you've minted an NFT, that's forever. So if say the link breaks for whatever reason, then the link the NFT with the direction it's pointing to
Breaks.
essentially it breaks. So you could say that the NFT is
Lost.
it loses value, right? So what these guys do, ZNFTs do, is one, they've decoupled the token URI and the metadata, right? So they've essentially created one URI for the token, which points to the token, and another URI which points to the metadata. Um, Now, why essentially they've decoupled it? I've not been able to understand what the exact utility of it is beyond just cleaner code. Beyond that, I haven't really understood why they've chosen um, this
I
design.
think I can kind of try to understand that, but like basically what I can glean is that if you have a token URI, the token URI will stay static, but the metadata URI can change, right? So if the metadata URI changes, then the token itself can be linked to several different URLs. So that means that allows you to have dynamic URLs that, I don't know how many times you can change it, but like you can change it like a couple of times. So like, I mean, I can give you an example. And I don't know if Substack does it this way, but for example, right, on Substack, if you want to change the name of your publication, and the URL that links to your publication, you can do it once or twice, max. I don't know exactly what it is, but if you do it more than that, like it just breaks. So you are allowed to do it a certain number of times. So I
Okay.
don't know if there's like a constraint on that from like
Yeah.
a NFT perspective, but I would suspect, and like this is just like my intuition, but I would suspect that the token URI stays the same, as i.e. where the token was minted, and what actually directs to the location of that token on a particular blockchain. But that metadata itself, which includes the URL where that NFT directs to, can change and is
So
dynamic.
okay. So let me. Okay, I think there's been some miscommunication. Um, when so the when the metadata and the token URL is combined, that's the original standard. How
Yeah.
NFTs
Okay.
are currently, how the NFT metadata is currently, how it actually is today. The Z NFT, what they do is they've separated the two. So the metadata
Okay.
itself does not include now the token URL. Metadata is just metadata, and the token URL is now a separate entity, it's a separate instance. So if you think of an NFT, a Zora NFT, okay, your first key item is your token URL, which is the URL which points to the asset, IPFS or
Yeah.
whatever. Your
Okay.
second main instance is the metadata URL, which points to the metadata. Both are updatable now.
Okay.
Okay.
So both are updatable now. Okay, got it.
Yes. Earlier, the one blob, the one combined instance of the token URL plus the metadata, that was not updatable. That's fixed.
Okay.
Now both have been separated out and they're both updatable.
Okay,
Okay.
that makes sense. I understand
Yeah.
that.
Now the obvious issue is, if it's updatable, then anyone can buy an NFT and just screw it up essentially, right? They can update the link and then then it's no longer the NFT which it's supposed to be. Like, for example, a Bored Ape, someone can just change the Bored Ape. Why they do it is a separate issue, but the fact that it theoretically can be done is an issue, right?
Change it how?
They would just change the link which points to the Bored Ape JPEG. They would just put, say, some random video or some
Okay.
message, right?
Okay.
Then there's no longer the NFT it's supposed to be. So what two other key items in a Zora NFT are the hashes of the token URL and the hash of the metadata URL, the original. So at mint, there will be one token URL and there'll be one metadata URL, right? At mint. And then automatically there will be hashed, but both the links will be hashed, and then those hashes will be be part of the NFT. So now if someone updates it in the future,
you can see it.
You can see that, okay, this is not the original URL.
And you can still like change it to like the original URL. Like you can change the new one to the original. Yeah, you can change it back. Exactly. No, that's what I was confirming. So that makes sense, right? That makes a lot of sense because the hash essentially signifies an untamperable, immutable way of signifying that this is the URL, this is the metadata, and this is the URL where it was hosted when it was minted, and this was the token, and this is the URL when it was minted, and this will stay on that NFT forever.
Yep, pretty much.
That's cool.
So the idea is to help the whole plagiarism of NFTs, because now you can actually verify, like you mentioned, right?
That makes a lot more sense, right? Because like you said, a random video that someone could change like a Bored Ape to, but what they could actually change it to was the exact same picture of a Bored Ape, just like hosted in another location, which is not really the same Bored Ape, but everyone would be fooled.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. So just to recap, the royalties, the instant royalties and token level royalty distribution, the order book being part of the token itself, and this new metadata standardization is the three main items of a ZNFT, which is novel to say NFT, a vanilla ERC-721 as it exists today. So this is a very big contribution by the Zora protocol. Next, that something the Zora protocol is very beneficial and helpful at doing is you can essentially bid with any ERC20 token. So you don't need to have just ETH or Bitcoin. You can bid with any ERC20 token, and this just broadens the liquidity and also improves the purchase user experience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yep. So that's that. Another interesting point is, as an owner, you can pick whose bid you want to accept. So you don't have to accept the highest price. You can accept any other bid. And one use case of this is, say you're minting your NFT collection, and one of the NFTs were bid, say, by me for $1,000, and say Kanye bids $100. You might want to sell to Kanye just because the value in the secondary market then might increase, which then might be a net positive for you via secondary royalties, right? And also maybe your brand value just rises because
also maybe you just think it's cool to sell it to Kanye, man.
Sure.
Maybe you'll use it for a new Yeezy design. Who knows?
Exactly. So this autonomy given to the seller is also quite interesting. Another marketplace concept that they've introduced is a sell-on share. So this is best understood as when I analogize it to what's it called in football, follow-on clause, whatever.
The sell-on clause.
Yeah. So like when a club buys a player and they further sell it, then the original club gets a kickback.
Yeah,
right?
That's a royalty, right? Like that's like royalties.
Yeah, but this is not by the minter. This is by a secondary purchaser. So say someone you buy a NFT.
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
So I can, in my bid, I don't have to just bid say 2 ETH. I also bid 2 ETH with a 10% sell on share.
Yeah, it's
So
like when I know what you're saying. If you're saying if it's like FIFA career mode, when you're like playing when you're like negotiating for a player transfer, and they go like, okay, 2 million is not enough, you need to give us more, and then you just tack on that sell on clause, which gives you like,
yeah,
okay, you get 10%, if I sell him on for like,
exactly.
100 million or whatever. And and that makes sense.
Yep. No, that's exactly what they've introduced, which is quite
Yeah.
interesting. And you can, which is essentially like, it's almost I mean, it is financializing the whole thing to a little bit, but I think it's
I mean,
still
it makes sense because it just gives people
yeah,
flexibility. If they don't want to include it, they can't, right? It's all
yeah.
about giving options. This entire space is about giving people the option to do whatever the hell they want. Um, and like what would be really meta if they introduced this sell-on fee thing. If they made like FIFA players like all NFTs and stuff. I'm not saying that they should. I'm just saying like if they did, if they made FIFA players like all NFTs and stuff in like career mode, and then they put this sell-on clause thing in career mode, then when you actually put on a sell-on clause, you will actually get money. That would be cool. I mean, like, I don't know, I've not like constructed the entire thing, but it could be cool.
Sure. I think we should flesh this out more.
Yeah, yeah.
offline.
Yeah, I think that's just a pie in the sky kind of idea, but I don't know, it sounds cool.
Okay, moving on. um, another interesting thing is what they call a finder's fee, which is essentially affiliate link. So what they do is any NFT, um, you can if you are you can create an affiliate link of yourself, and then if someone uses that link to purchase the asset, the NFT which the link points to, then you get a commission.
That's very
Right?
real world use case.
Yeah. So it's essentially just matchmaking between buyers and sellers. Um, which is good.
But like
It's
much more trackable, right? Like, so let's say you're an Instagram influencer and you got like a link, and then someone clicks on your link, but that link like can actually track how many, conversions the company that was
Yep.
advertising on your
No, I
influencer
think
channel was.
this happens. Yeah, it's exactly that, but it happens in Web 2 as well.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. It's not novel by
Revolutionary.
any means. Yeah, it's not revolutionary. It's definitely the first time hearing about it with context to NFTs, and the NFT ecosystem. But it's
That
good.
makes
It's,
sense.
it's
Fair
it's nice
enough.
to have. It's nice to have.
Yeah.
Another thing is the non-custodial listings. So this is what I mentioned, what we were talking about earlier. When you list on Zora, um, the NFT is still in your wallet, so you have the benefit of owning it in terms of just sovereignty, but also then you can take advantage of any utility it might have.
And
Until
any
so
of the functions that you just described.
Yeah, so only when the sale executes is when the NFT actually goes out of your wallet.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, again, I think this is also quite amazing. Um, Another thing is gas efficiency. Gas efficiency. They claim to be 39% cheaper than OpenSea. I mean, they put a table which we'll include in the article, but there's really no way for me to actually verify it. I mean, I can actually do the transaction, but I haven't done it. So don't have primary data, but they've put a table showing the various statistics, so which you can check out in the article. Um, One thing that is a drawback is with centralized platforms, you can do something called lazy minting, which is essentially mint your NFT for free because it's not really going on chain; it stays off chain until there's an actual transaction, um, which is nice. It's quite convenient. But since Zora is completely on chain, that functionality is not there yet. They are working on it, but it's still not there yet. How they would do it also is quite something I don't understand, how you can implement something like that, because any on-chain interaction by definition needs to have some sort of fee to make the adjustment in the ledger of the blockchain. So how they're going to do it, if they do it, no one knows, but for now it's not there.
Yeah, I think so what do you mean by lazy minting again? Like, is it
so lazy
essential?
so lazy minting is essentially you mint for free. How do you do that is because you don't actually your NFT that you're listing on any marketplace, or anyone to purchase, for anyone to purchase, that doesn't go on chain. So say for example, if I mint, or if I lazy mint on OpenSea, um, it would look like I've minted an NFT, but it wouldn't be on chain.
How would
So
it
someone
look
can,
like it?
like I would like you could you look at say you'd browse collections, you'd come across my collection, you'd look at it, you would say, okay, do I want to mint it? Do I not want to mint it? Okay, you don't want to mint it, so you move on. Say you do want to mint it, then you purchase it. When you purchase it, that's when the transaction actually happens on chain.
Oh, so the purchase transaction includes the mint of the NFT plus the transaction.
Yeah, that's one way of thinking about it. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So like you can essentially, like, if I'm, and this is beneficial for artists, so like, you know, NFT creators,
Right,
when you
because it's
like,
just cheaper.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
cheaper because you don't have to like incur gas costs twice.
Not twice. You still have to
I
get
mean, like, why would it be cheaper?
because when you mint an NFT, you have to still pay gas.
Yeah, exactly. So that means that so when you mint an NFT, you have to pay gas. But like in this case, when the person who's buying it, that's the only gas that they pay, or they pay the gas for like the minting
Okay.
plus the transaction.
Okay, that I don't know. But the one clear advantage is you know you're paying gas when you have a buyer,
Yeah.
right? Because you follow. Because if I mint on chain directly without knowing anything, I'll still pay my gas, and then it'll just be on chain
Yeah.
for
Whatever.
God knows how
Yeah.
long. But if I know that someone is purchasing it, and only then I actually have to pay my gas, then at least I'm getting that
It's more
comfort.
beneficial. Like, fine. Like the opportunity. Yeah, it makes sense. The opportunity cost kind of thing.
Right.
Right. Okay. Cool.
So anyway, so that my point is that functionality is not there on Zora. But other NFT transactions, buying, canceling, so on and so forth, they claim to be cheaper and more efficient. Moving on. So this is quite interesting. Zorfs. So Zorf. So okay. So going back to the whole hyperstructure, right? One of the key principles of hyperstructure is that it's simultaneously free for everyone, but still valuable to own. Those are two very difficult things to reconcile. And even though Zora protocol is meant to be in hyperstructure, it is still unclear how they are going to reconcile these two things when it comes to Zora in particular, right? How is it going to be free for everyone, but how is it going to be valuable to own at the same time? How it's going to look at steady state, I don't know. I don't think they know as well. But one thing they have started is something called a Zorf. A Zorf is an NFT which gives you the right to flip a fee switch in the Zora protocol. So even though right now there are no fees on the Zora protocol, there is a fee switch inbuilt into the protocol, which you can theoretically switch on if you own the Zorf.
So you know what a Zorf is? Just like getting it into terminology that we can kind of understand. It's actually a freemium model. Like it kind of illustrates what a freemium model on Zora would actually look like. It's like Zora has all these features at a base layer that anyone can access, but then they actually have these other features that people who pay for those features can use. And that's a freemium model, right? I mean, what do you like? That isn't that like
No,
what
I'm
is
not. I'm not
so
following.
so it's a freemium model, right? So there's some features. Let's say there are 10 features on Zora, like you explained, that anyone can use, right? Like the like everything that we spoke about right now. And then there's some features like a fee switch or other features that are built on top of that. You buy an NFT and you can use that, right? You can use that feature.
Okay, no. Okay, so the fee switch is not a feature. It is just something that exists in the protocol, and the reason it exists is because to somehow put tangible value to the whole protocol itself. So freemium model, I don't think is the right analogy, because that assumes that there are certain functionalities of the protocol itself which you need to pay for to be able to use.
Isn't that kind of exactly what you just said though with the with the Zorfs?
No, because see to earn a cut is not actually the utility of the Zora protocol. Zora protocol is to create NFTs to
But that doesn't
facilitate.
matter. Like if you like step back, that doesn't actually matter, because what you're gaining is the ability to do something that someone else cannot do because you've paid for that ability.
Okay, sure. When you look at it through that, then I guess, yeah, okay. So the reason I was reluctant to call it is because the feature you're getting access to is not what the protocol is meant for.
But it doesn't matter because you're getting a feature that adds additional functionality to the protocol.
Okay. Okay, through that lens, I see where you're coming from. But the idea here is not to actually use this functionality, because as soon as you turn on the fee switch, um, then the whole USP of Azure goes away, right? Then I mean, at least in principle, right? It's supposed to be
Not
free to
really,
use.
because like the thing is that Zora can be considered as a protocol that has that allows for better
Hmm.
creation, better infrastructure, better structure for NFTs, and it allows for interoperability. And all of these at the base layer are just technical features. What you're doing is allowing people to monetize those technical features in the way that they see fit, but then actually imposing a fee for them to access those features that allow them to monetize it as well as they want, right? So it is essentially a freemium model because you are allowing features for free that improve the NFT experience and allow them to create experiences that are new. But also, if they pay for something more, which is feature A, which is a fee switch, they get to improve their protocol better than someone who hasn't paid
Hmm.
for that thing. And improve is like a subjective term, but they get to do something that someone who hasn't paid for it gets to do.
So one thing to clarify is that if you don't own this NFT, this Zorf, you can still use Zora to a full extent.
But
There's
you can't
no
put the fee switch on.
you can accept that you
But
can't.
that's the thing, like it's an example of a freemium feature. It means that it kind of signals the direction in which Zora can grow is by offering other features that are similar. They can offer like Zorgs or like Zorbs or like Zubus, I don't know, but
Mhm.
like they can, all of these random things can do different things that people who don't own them can do.
Yeah, I mean I mean that's one definitely one direction this could go. From at least what I've read, um, they want to go in the direction of, say, something like, if a developer develops a particular feature in the Zora protocol, then what they can do is create a DAO, and the DAO could be a combined ownership of that developer and the Zora DAO, which owns the Zorf.
I'm
So
skeptical on
then,
that.
and no, but then essentially that right to switch on the to switch on the fee switch for that particular module, which the developer has helped code, is then a shared right.
Okay, explain that more. It's a shared right.
So owning the Zorf is a right to switch on fees, right?
Sure.
Essentially. Now, if a new developer develops a module in the Zora protocol, it could be anything. It could be a new feature for all you. It could be, think about it as a new feature that the
Yeah,
developer
sure, they
the
develop
Zora
a new
protocol.
feature.
Now, they should they should at least get part ownership in turning on the fee switch, and by owning that right, that right itself has some value, right? You can it can have tangible value. Like, it could be going for 1 ETH, 2 ETH, 3 ETH, 4 ETH, 5 ETH, whatever it could be.
Sure.
So that, first of all, that gives the developer, it gives it value for developing, and also just ownership, right? He has the optionality of how, where of taking the protocol in whatever direction he wants, because it's his, he owns it. But the only difference is he would not own it completely. It would still be part owned by Zora, the Zora DAO, and him, by keeping the NFT in a new DAO, a third DAO, which is a 50-50 ownership between the developer and Zora DAO.
I think I want to kind of reserve judgment of this. I think that it's super complicated, actually,
It
in
is. I
practice.
mean,
And I don't think it makes as much sense as just openness and like permissionlessly allowing someone to create features that they want to add on top of it. It's like an app store, like an on an app store, so anyone can
mm,
create an app that increases utility for the overall app store. It's a very crude analogy, but like that's how it is, right? And I think that creating a DAO and then creating like this feature and then having a shared 50-50, firstly it's the same result as like listing an app on an app store in which actually the developer should be the one earning the most money. And secondly, the friction literally
mm,
comes in the fact that they have to create a DAO, and like it's still kind of not very straightforward to create a DAO. And like I feel like this is one of those, like like when like that there's a tree growing and all these offshoots grow that are kind of, not as good for the tree growing further than, the tree just growing, and you just cut off those offshoots, you cut off the roots, you cut off the bad roots, and this is the kind of stuff that just adds friction. And like, what have we been talking about over the last few episodes? We've been talking about the need for a very simple experience in crypto, and
Yeah.
I think that this just adds complexity, and I don't think that this is, I think that this route is one that needs to be cut off.
So okay, I don't think the points you're making are, I don't think they're irrelevant by any means, but I would suggest looking at this more from the lens of almost monetizing the protocol as opposed to from a user experience.
Yeah, but
Because this,
monetizing the protocol can be done from like a different way rather than like, that thing. Like,
yeah,
okay, let's say that like Zora gets 5% cut, whatever, like a 10% cut, 50-50 ownership of like a protocol that is of like a feature improvement that has been built by someone else is extortion.
I mean, that was just an example of how the Zolf can be implemented. I'm not suggesting 50% is what they're doing.
Oh, okay, fine. Sorry, I misunderstood that. Yeah, but like anyway, like then it makes sense. But like the entire process doesn't make as much sense
So
in
the
this.
idea, the core thing that I want to want to highlight is the Zolf. The Zolf is an NFT which gives you the right to earn to switch on a fee, switch the fee switch on, and even though the fees are 0%, just by owning that NFT, you get tangible value from the protocol, thereby getting closer to that initial vision of having a free protocol, but one that is still valuable to own. So even though you have 0% fees, by owning the NFT which gives you the right to switch on fees, it creates value. Having that optionality is valuable.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree with that point.
Right.
I mean, I think that we can curtail this discussion after like this last point that I make, but like essentially what I'm saying is that like what you were saying about the Zords makes complete sense. Um, Sorry, give me 1 second. Sorry, that was just sneeze. Almost a sneeze. But essentially, what I was saying is that the Zorb, the idea itself makes sense, and like the monetization itself makes sense. I don't disagree with the monetization aspect. Like the protocol should obviously take some revenue for being the protocol on which all of these things are built. All I'm saying is that the process of building a feature is too difficult. It was a separate point. It was like the friction point that I feel like I want to hammer down on because people need to understand this.
No, sure. Point taken. Point taken. Um, let's move on to the traction of the protocol.
Mhm.
So it's quite interesting. The the projects that are built on top of Zora have, so some names you might know, Friends with Benefits.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
almost a
Now,
community now, right? Yeah.
now, yeah.
Mirror protocol, which is like Medium for Web3.
Mirrors built
Uh,
on Zora.
yes.
Very cool.
Catalog.
Wow.
Catalog is like music NFTs, minting music NFTs. I think those are like the main projects. I hadn't heard of it. Party Bid, which is
Party Bid's
Party,
also very cool.
yeah, quite interesting. Ativa, Lens, not
Lens?
not Lens protocol. Sorry. Uh,
I should stop saying wow after everything that you say. I sound like a hype man.
um, it's the anyway, put in the article. It's the uh, project that's basically how catalog is for music. These guys are for videos. I can actually tell you which one it is. So so they have some quite interesting names that way that are building. Um,
Cool. Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, like we can.
it's
Yeah.
called glass, not
Yes.
lens. Yeah. And the founder claims that about 50% of all transactions on the protocol actually take place not on Zora.co, so on all these various platforms that have been
That's very
built
cool.
on the protocol, which is good indicator of just network health more than it being just a closed marketplace, right?
So interesting question. Do you think Zora.co should actually be an aggregator for all the different Zora marketplaces?
So when you say all the different Zora marketplaces, you mean all the two applications that are built on?
Yeah.
So I think I don't know if all the projects do this, but I remember seeing one or two that if you list on them on those third-party applications, automatically your asset gets listed on Zora.co.
Oh, cool.
So to a certain extent,
Sounds like
that
it.
is
Yeah.
exactly what's happening.
Yeah. That's even cooler actually. You don't even have to like,
Yeah,
yeah, it just like automatically. I think this is very cool. Sure. Continue.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, I mean that was it on that. Social media, they have a decent following. Twitter 71,000 followers, Instagram 23,000. Not the best, but still fairly healthy.
Fine. Yeah.
One thing that is slightly concerning is just the raw stats. Um, I don't have any way to validate these stats because in spite of it, being on chain, there isn't anything like a Etherscan or anything that or any well established um, uh, you know uh, pages on Dune, let's say, or like
Some
a DeFi
dashboards or anything. Yeah.
dashboards. Yeah, but what I could find is that Zora total number of mints since Jan 21. This is since Jan 21 because Zora V3, which has the bulk of the features I mentioned, just launched right in
Okay.
Jan 21. Um, so I mean it's still a year and a half, but since then total number of mints on the Zora protocol 30,000, not that great. Total number of unique creators 25,000 is decent, but anyway, any way to look at these numbers in isolation is not right. It's always you have to compare to OpenSea, look at it on the other marketplaces, and I don't have those numbers. What I do have is 7-day traded value, so all the value transaction value of the last 7 days on Zora protocol, $7,000 only. OpenSea $138 million, Luxrare $73 million, and Coinbase $70,000. Um,
Okay. That's concerning. Why would you think that it's like this?
I mean, one response is the statistics are wrong because I just found this on a random Dune Analytics page. I have not. I mean, I don't have the. Um, I didn't like verify the actual query that the page is making. So, which I'm gonna go into more, which are the concerns and gaps in analysis. Um, the statistics, I don't know the validity of them, but this is what I could find online, so at least I thought I'll mention them, right? So the outstanding bid value, which is more at least positive. Outstanding bid value means basically how many bids, the total aggregate amount of bids that are on the protocol. $177,000, which is slightly better. And this is also interesting. Total accepted bid value. So all the transaction till date, right? Essentially, um, Zora protocol $16.5 million, not too bad. OpenSea 6.5 billion, LooksRare 2.2.5 billion, and Coinbase NFT, interestingly, only $7 million.
But Coinbase NFT literally just launched.
Right, fair, fair point.
Like, I mean, you can't compare it. I mean, Zora's clearly not doing well.
Yeah, so from a utility standpoint, uh, and um, I do have some thought on why this could be, and that is one, Zora protocol is new, okay, and the protocol itself is not like a marketplace. Like you can't judge it as a marketplace because that's not what it's trying to do. So it's not trying to onboard users onto their marketplace.
But are you looking at data only for Zora.co or Zora protocol itself?
I'm talking about the protocol.
Okay.
But I'm getting to what I mean, which is the protocol itself is not trying to onboard and you know catalyze transactions as OpenSea and Looker are. That's one. Second is as a derivative of the first point, the transactions are basically it basically tells you the health of the application that are built on the Zora protocol. So you could actually make a case by saying that these statistics are indicative of how well the applications are doing as opposed to the protocol. So you could posit
Yeah,
that
but that's a circular argument because the thing is that
no,
you're building applications on top of the protocol. If
yeah,
there was more traction on the applications, then more applications would essentially be built to the protocol because people are seeing that these are the benefits of Zora and I'm going to be building my
yeah,
thing on Zora. So if
yeah.
applications are not doing well, then the protocol is not doing well. I mean, I think it's like a very straight line.
No, so you could also say that the application that is harnessing Zora protocol the best has not been built yet.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't disagree with that point. That's a separate point. I'm just saying that to date it's not done well.
Yeah, but I'm saying to date is not done well, not because of the inherent flaws with Zora protocol, but more because of the applications have
I
not
mean,
been
but
able
like at
to.
some point, right, you have to step back and think about why exactly are applications not being built on Zora protocol that are doing that well. And
It's early.
that's the crux, that's the issue
Hmm.
that you have to solve for.
Yeah, no, fair. I think that's true. I think it's just also because see, I mean, it's been a year and a half, but it takes time to build.
Yeah,
Uh,
okay, but like there were other applications that have been built like a year ago, or less than a year and a half ago,
yeah.
in terms of NFTs. Dude, you're literally comparing a protocol to NFT summer. Literally, NFTs exploded
Hmm.
last year. And if you're saying that like the total amount of like placed bids or accepted bids was $16 million over a year and a half compared to, however much for Luxere, which incidentally launched after Zora. Um,
Hmm.
that's not a good
Okay.
sign. Yeah, Luxray definitely launched after Zora. Luxray launched like last October, November. I mean, as much as I can remember.
Hmm.
So that's not good. And like, I mean, there's no point of ignoring that there's a problem. There is a problem. What,
Yeah.
now,
No, I think
what
I think
exactly is the problem is what has to be
yeah.
considered.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I mean, those are just speculations more than anything. What I was mentioning. I think the first step would, if if anyone's doing a deeper analysis, it would definitely be on trying to validate these numbers. Um, we we can put the links to the Dune analytics pages which have given these numbers, but to verify their queries, the Dune pages queries, I think that would be definitely a starting point as to if you want to dive deeper. Um, but yeah, so with that, I think I've covered everything I want to say about Zora. I think I'll just touch upon the concerns and analysis. I think one we've already touched upon is just the raw traction, and I think a more detailed look at the usage statistics will be very handy. Will be very handy. Um, and also the fact that there isn't uh, any dashboard like I mentioned earlier, which just gives you the statistics. Um,
Was
might
it not
show
on token terminal? Obviously not. It's not a token. Sorry.
that just by the fact that it doesn't have a dashboard which shows just the universal statistics of Zora, slightly concerning. Could be a sign of I don't know, maybe the community is not as
As
involved.
strong.
Um, don't really know what's going on there. But other than that, one concern I had, and maybe you can help me understanding this is, if it's an open source protocol, forking is always going to be a risk, and that just goes down. Then the fact how successful you're going to be is just going to be your execution ability, right? How fast you can bootstrap those network effects. Um, that's the one concern, and just one thing I point out. But the actual concern, I guess, at first wasn't a concern. It was more just an observation. The more of a concern I would state is that if the one of the key USPs of Zora, which is the royalties, the token royalties, is can be implemented to any other protocol or any project via EIP 2981, which basically, like I mentioned, gives the royalty standard to um, any existing NFT. If that possibility exists, and also there are tools like Royalty Registry, which I came across, which basically allows any existent NFT, right, an existing ERC 1021 to post facto implement these royalty logics at a token level. If such tools exist, then why can't any other marketplace just start offering token level royalties?
I think they can. I think firstly it's stasis and literally raw profit. Why
Yeah, I mean,
OpenSea
that's the
wouldn't do it
only,
right now? A lot of the reason is that like people, still use the platform because they have network effects. Um, I think that, in terms of forking Zora and like making things better on top of it. I mean, like the thing comes in like the network effects of how Zora NFTs, how the Z NFTs interact with, you know, with other Z NFTs across platforms, across marketplaces, across every type of NFT asset built on Zora. Now, if there's something that forks Zora and builds it with that same level of interoperability, but adds additional features, then that's better for the ecosystem in general. But then, I mean, you're not really betting on Zora as like the protocol that is going to kill it and like make it forever, right? And honestly, in an open source world, you're never really betting on that. You're betting on the team. It's always,
Right.
you're betting always on the team
And the
and on
community.
the quality of their execution and the quality of their vision. And to date, I feel like Zora has shown that in terms of the technical features that they've released, because I feel like this is one of the coolest, protocols that I've come across recently. And I feel like, they aren't, the problems that they have aren't as easily encapsulated as, like for example, what the problems with Ocean Protocol were, which is essentially don't have a token, please. But for Zora, like the problems aren't very easy to diagnose, right? Like it's not very easy to know why they haven't gained the traction that you would think that a protocol of their stature would have gained. I think like a potential reason could be that like OpenSea is centralized and it's a lot easier for anyone to manage anything that they create on OpenSea. So that would be a benefit that it has for the foreseeable future until something that has as less friction and is decentralized emerges, which Zora actually has the ability to do so. In the future, if they focus on those things, but it's still kind of up in the air whether they will actually focus on those things that make user experience and friction much lesser, right? So I think that that's one very important aspect to consider in terms of why Zora hasn't gained as much traction. Now, another thing that I would say is that is it the marketing? Is it how easy it is for developers to use? Is it the outreach that they've done to date? Is it essentially just like very clearly espousing what exactly Zora is about and what its benefits are and like why people should use it? Is it that, or is it the fact that everyone just wants their NFTs listed on like a platform where most people visit, and that's why people list everything on OpenSea rather than creating bespoke NFT marketplaces for their NFTs? So that's like a question about the entire NFT space in general. Are you going to create bespoke marketplaces for different types of NFTs and different types of protocols are creating their own and they can interoperate and be listed on an aggregator, or you're going to literally list everything on like one platform that lists everything at the start? Now that's like a very human level question. That's kind of like, oh, this how you would like to use it, or is that how you would like to use it, right? And that question is yet to be answered, and I wouldn't count Zora out yet, because honestly, like we first have to diagnose what exactly the issue is and see if it's solvable. We haven't diagnosed that issue around its traction and like why it hasn't been able to gain substantial usage yet. So once you do that, then the answer becomes a lot clearer, but I'm withholding judgment until then. But like my closing thoughts on Zora are essentially that it's a very cool protocol. Watch out for it. I'm actually pretty happy that it hasn't released a token yet, because like like that's a massive plus point in my eyes, because they haven't released the token unless they know exactly what that token will be used for, which is the correct way to go about things. And like paradoxically, the lack of doing something has made me like them better. But like what I would say is that watch out for it, and we need to delve a bit deeper into it, in terms of diagnosing what exactly the issue with this traction and usage is. But once we do that, we should have a better idea of how Zora will perform long term. But yeah, that's my
Yeah.
closing
No,
thoughts.
I think I echo the sentiment. I think completely. Uh, I mean, one thing I'll say is if anyone from the Zora team wants to come on the next episode of Genesis Block, please reach out to us, and we're more than happy to have a discussion and correct anything that we've misspoken, or if there's anything clarification you want to make for the broader audience. But other than that, man, yeah, I think Zora is a super cool protocol. I think, and interestingly, there's like no one else trying to do something like this. No one's
It's
trying
very
to
cool.
standardize.
I think that like some of the technical features and like the options that they've introduced as part of the protocol,
Yeah,
like you mentioned, are very cool.
yeah, and no one else is trying to like like they are trying to innovate at the very base layer of NFT interaction. No one else trying to do that here.
Having
All
a having an order book and a token is amazing.
yeah, and all other decentralized NFT services are essentially are all like dexes, essentially trying to decentralize trade between NFTs as opposed to decentralize all NFT interaction.
Exactly. And I think that like
Which is a very,
Zora's, yeah.
it's a very strong differentiator.
Yeah. And Zora's got it right. Focus on the token level.
Yep, like exactly. So I mean, I maybe it's a classic case of finding a undervalued asset.
Hopefully. I mean,
um,
like you need to know where they're going wrong though.
yep, yep.
There's
Cool.
more analysis needed. But yeah, anyway, I think that was great.
Yes, let's wrap things up here. And like I mentioned, anyone from the Zora team, feel free to reach out to us at Genesis Blog Podcast. Twitter is in the description, Twitter handle. And thanks, folks. Thanks for tuning in, and let's hope to see you guys back for our next episode.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone. Great episode. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this chat about Zora. See you next time. Bye.